Con ustedes empezamos en inglés, después en español. Ladies and gentlemen, happy Thursday. Cafecito con el abogado. We're going to be talking today about the topic that is on everybody's mind, immigration reform. We're so close, closer than we've been in decades to actually making it a reality. What we're going to talk about today is who qualifies in this new bill, what's going on with it, where it's at right now, what we're waiting for, possibility of it happening. First, we're going to get into the who qualifies, because everybody's been asking about that. You know, who's going to be able to do it, who's not going to be able to do it. Well, we're going to jump the gun and get right to that point on who qualifies and who doesn't qualify. And then afterwards, we will go into whether or not someone, the Senate parliamentarian, will allow it to be approved. So that's what we're looking at right now, ladies and gentlemen. Very excited. Welcome back. And a lot of people have been reaching out and been asking like, hey, what's going on? Where you been? Haven't seen any videos recently. Well, that is because I have started teaching at Arizona State University. There you have it right there and then, talking about Ray Bart's Missing them all denial. If you want to email me, abogadoray@asu.edu, in addition to our traditional Ray at abogadoray. And here's a little bio saying it's legit. I'm teaching evidence there. Been a whole lot of fun, a lot of preparation, and now getting back into doing the videos here for the community. And just how close are we, ladies and gentlemen, to immigration reform? Well, we're so close that here we have, I'm losing sleep over it, is what Senator Durbin has said, who's been trying for immigration reform for such a long amount of time, and it's finally looking like it could be a possibility. So we're going to hammer out here today who would qualify under this bill. Who are the ladies and gentlemen that, let me get to zoom this in a little bit more. So this is the House version of what could be the reconciliation bill that has passed out of the House Judiciary Committee. So it's the closest thing we've got so far to getting to immigration reform. It's been out of committee. The Senate language probably will be the same, but we still haven't seen the exact language of that yet, and I'll explain why a little bit towards the end. And as always, if you've got questions, comments, concerns, of course, throw them down right now. So here we are. Committee on the Judiciary, who's going to qualify? We're going to add Section 245B. Right now, Section 245A is where most of us go to for adjustment of status. And then it starts off by saying there's going to be a $1,500 supplemental fee. There's going to be a security and background check, the medical exam. All that's going to be for everybody who qualifies. But, Mr. Attorney, who qualifies? Okay, well, let's get right into that here. So the first category that we're going over, let's call them the dreamer category. Now, that term seems to be redefined at every moment, but in today's episode, we're saying anyone, 1A here, who has been physically present since before January 1, 2021. So you got here before the first of this year. You arrived when you were 18 years old or younger, which is an improvement, right? A lot of the things we've seen in the past has been under 18, 17 and under. Here it's saying 18 years and under. So before January 1, 18 or younger, and in addition to that, served in the military or had at least 2 years of higher education or a technical program, or 3 years of working, and another or, enrolled currently in an institute of higher education or some sort of technical skills program, and you're doing an internship, apprenticeship, or a similar training program. So all very good stuff, right? All very good stuff that we're super excited about. Very, very positive. And it's better than the DACA program by about 5,000%, maybe 6,000%. because it doesn't have, you had to be here before 2007, doesn't have the age restriction. This is 18 or under, doesn't have a time limit on how old you must be now. So it seems to be open to anybody that came before they were 18 and otherwise fits one of these criteria. So that could be huge, much, much bigger than the current DACA program that we have right now. Then we go into section 2A here, and it again starts us off with the same here before January 1 of this year. So here in 2020. And then B, it goes to the big one, the big dog, we're calling it right here. This is the essential worker category. So anybody that between January 31, 2020 up until August 24, 2021 was involved in work that's defined in this memo as an essential worker, you also could qualify. Oh my goodness. What does that mean, attorney? What does this mean, this essential workforce? Well, we got it over here. We have this ginormous memo here where August 10, 2021, you see that referred to back in the other one, where we can search to see whether or not the work that you do would qualify. If you can see up there, it's 23 pages long. If you're a fan of the channel, you remember we've done a few videos on memos similar to this showing pretty much everybody was qualified as an essential worker. Now this is the federal one, this is not the state of Arizona one, so maybe you can argue it's not going to be as expansive, but it is going to be very, very expansive. So if at any point I want to know, I'm just going to come over here, I'm going to search a term, and I'm going to see if that term pops up, and that'll give me the insight into whether or not those individuals who worked in certain areas, and here we're talking about healthcare workers, restaurant workers, food preparation, food delivery. I mean, it's just, I'm scrolling fast. I'll put the link down below if you want it. Just let me know and we'll throw it down here. But again, it's 23 pages of who qualifies as an essential worker. This would be a bigger category than dreamers. More people would fit in here than in the dreamer category, hands down. As many of us know, right, our community continued to work, continue to provide services throughout the pandemic, deemed essential education, food, agricultural, transportation, national security, etc., etc. That's what that has to do, all right? Judiciary Committee has got that out of the house, so we got the dreamers, we got the essential workers, and we got two more categories that we're talking about. The other one is TPS. So those folks that had TPS here before, this one's a little bit different. You have to be here for 3 years, not before January 1 of this year. They made it a little bit more difficult for those from the TPS countries. And your country had to be designated as TPS before January 1, 2017. So you go over here to the TPS page, and this gives us the rundown of what countries are currently designated as TPS, and we can look down here to see if they were on that list before January 1 of 2017. So nationals of these countries could possibly come under if you've also been here 3 years. All right, let's go back over here. So you've been here 3 years, you're on the list before January 1, 2017, and you haven't had any crime since that would otherwise make you ineligible for something like TPS. And then number 4, the same 3 years, but you're DED, and you haven't done anything to make sure that you would lose that DED status in the meantime. Does that make sense, ladies and gentlemen? That's what we're talking about here today. Very excited to be doing this program. So those are the 4 categories of folks who would qualify. Hotel workers as hospitality, most definitely. Bharat, thanks for joining, thanks for watching. Hotel workers would be considered as essential workers, so I think that would definitely qualify folks there. Again, it's very broad. I think we have a lot of arguments to make. Essentially, if you were working and you were required to work, we have a good argument to make that you should qualify, or those people should qualify under this new proposed legislation. All right. So those are the 4 categories, the 4 boxes we've got to put in, but there's still more to it. So if you fit one of those 4 categories, then you can apply, but we also have to check the traditional, what's called grounds of inadmissibility. So even if you have one of these 4 categories you're in, hey, great, we still got to go back to our traditional immigration law research. Let me throw this one up here so you can see it. And it goes to grounds of ineligibility right here. And we come down, grounds of ineligibility in general, not inadmissible pursuant to section 212A2, 3, 6E, 6G, 8, 10A, and 10C, or 10D. Oh my goodness, doesn't that sound confusing? It does, because immigration law tends to be confusing. So let's go over to grounds of inadmissibility right here, make it a little bit more clear. If you're A2, that's the crime-related grounds. So the traditional crime-related grounds of grounds of inadmissibility would still apply. So if you have any criminal history, any criminal convictions, before you apply, you want to make sure you run through this list of A2 that you don't have one of these convictions or otherwise eligible for a waiver. There's also section 3 here, which is security and related grounds. So you can't have any terrorist connections, terrorist labels, all that good stuff. And we keep scrolling down, we can see the remainder of the grounds of ineligibility. And to me, it's very interesting because they skip some, right? It goes A2, it goes A3, and then it jumps all the way to 6. So what are we missing right there? Look at number 4, public charge. Mr. Trump politicized that too much, so they're jumping over public charge here and say we don't have to worry about that. We don't have to worry about labor certs. We do have to worry about 6G and 6E, which have to do with smuggling and student visa abusers. Interestingly enough, false claim to citizenship is not included. We don't have 6C in the list. So people who I've told many a times before, hey, I'm so sorry, you can't do it, you might be able to do it because not all the grounds of inadmissibility are contained in this new provision. So very, very exciting to see that it opens up a little bit more. In addition to the traditional grounds of inadmissibility, they create new ones that also make it a little bit more difficult, right? Because here they're saying, okay, there's traditional criminal grounds of inadmissibility, but we're also going to add on something else. Any felony offense, right? Any offense under federal or state law other than related to immigration, punishable by maximum term imprisonment of a year or more. So they're saying basically any felony conviction. The 3 or more misdemeanors as well. They're saying under these right here, the difference with the DACA, it's 3 or more misdemeanors. This one's 3 or more misdemeanors and you did 90 days in jail. So if you have 4 misdemeanors but didn't do 90 days cumulative, then it wouldn't be anything to worry about. All right? So that is essentially what they're requiring. There's a few waivers that are in there as well. There's something good in there for kids also, like a promise to not deport them if they came before this year and they're currently in school. That is essentially the gist and the rundown of the bill that we are looking at. All right, ladies and gents. And I got some questions over here. Keep those questions coming. Always appreciate the questions. Liz asked on Facebook, thanks for watching, Liz, what if you only have a high school diploma but you are working? So yes, Liz, under this category, if you came in before January 1 of this year, before you were 18 years of old, and for the past 3 years you've maintained employment, that would also qualify under what I'm labeling. It doesn't say the word dreamers in there, I'm just calling it that. The dreamers category. I think you would definitely fit within that. And let's see here. If dreamer didn't graduate high school but is working and paying taxes, yes, you definitely could qualify under the working one. Let's throw that back up here, that we're getting that question a lot. So let's get the bill back up here and go to that section so you can see it directly. And let's scroll back up here to talk about the part on education. Most definitely it counts if you're working or if you're in school, either one. This is the essential worker one. We're working our way back up to the education part. So here you see during the 3-year period immediately preceding the date on which the person submits the application for adjustment, consistent record of earned income in the United States. So these little dots are very important, the little 3 I's there, because it means it's the third way to qualify. And the fourth way is if you're enrolled in a program. So your question about not graduating high school, in how I'm reading this, it's an either or. So you could either get it through education, having a high school diploma, or through the 3 years of work. Or you can go back and enroll in a program so you can have multiple boxes in which you can fit into. But right now, how I'm reading that, it does say that that could independently, either through military service, through the education, or through work, would be the 3 different ways to go about getting it. And I'm throwing 4 and 2 into the same category right there. Makes sense? I hope it does. Let's get some questions back up here again. And gotcha. Do they have a new deadline yet? So no new deadline. That transition, a great transition. I appreciate you jumping on to help the transition here. Here's what's going on. So that's the overall ballpark picture. And I'll get to some of those more. Keep dropping the questions down, that's fine. But where are we at? So I told you the 4 categories. These are the 4 that could, if it passes as is, has passed the House Judiciary Committee. But what's going on? What are the chances? Is it really going to happen, right? So let's come over here and let's look at this one here. Democrats make immigration case to Senate parliamentarian. So last Friday, the Democrats and the Republicans had a closed-door meeting, we'll call it, with the Senate parliamentarian. They both made their pitch to the Senate parliamentarian that this should be able to be included in the budget reconciliation process, okay? So the Senate parliamentarian heard arguments on Friday by both. The Democrats saying, yes, it does, it should count. The Republicans saying, no, no way, forget about it. It's only a political posturing, has nothing to do with the budget. So for those that haven't watched the channel before, my apologies for just jumping straight to that. What does this mean? So there is a process called budget reconciliation, by which if you include it in related to the budget, you don't need 60 members of the Senate to agree with it, because this ancient relic called the filibuster. So the filibuster allows one senator to say, I don't want it to move forward, if you don't have 60 people that say the opposite. Budget reconciliation throws that out the door. There's no filibuster that can happen with reconciliation for the budget. Therefore, you just need the 50 and then the 1 vice president to be able to pass it. So the Senate parliamentarian is an unelected person who is like the most important person in the United States of America right now. This person essentially has in their hands the power to decide whether or not immigration reform is going to happen. One person, one unelected person, right? And it's not, does this person like immigration reform or not? I don't know where they stand on that, but that's not the question. The question is it related to the budget? So Friday was the meeting. This week, the Senate parliamentarian asked for more details. So it's being considered. It wasn't a flat out no, wasn't a flat out yes. We're expecting a decision as early as this week. As early as this week, possibly next week, from the Senate parliamentarian. And Democrats, unfortunately, are already saying, hey, if it's a no, we're going to come back with a different provision that's different than the 4 I just talked to you about, right? That could be an extension of 245I. That could be an extension of registry. If that happens, don't worry, we'll do another video on it. Like and subscribe if you're on the YouTube. We're almost at the 1,000 subscribers right there. If you're watching on the Face, give us that like, give us that share as well, so more people can come in the conversation and learn directly about what's going on with the possibility of immigration reform. So this is where we're at right now, ladies and gentlemen. Interesting times, perhaps the closest we've been not perhaps, let me rephrase that. The closest we have been to immigration reform in decades. Very, very possible that we have that happen. All right. Pero ¿cuándo nos va a dar la residencia? Ahorita voy a empezar, Josefina, en español y explicar todo. Básicamente, todavía es pura propuesta y estamos esperando decisión de una persona en el Senado si va a avanzar o no. Okay? So, no hay nada que podamos aplicar, no dar su dinero a nadie todavía, no hace contrato con nadie. Todavía estamos esperando la respuesta a ver si eso va a pasar o no. All right. My man Phil says, yep, I appreciate that, Phil. I don't remember what you were yepping to, but if you agree with it, appreciate you tuning in, brother. And here we have another question from the tube. If someone was here before 18 since 98 and here before 21 but has had a deportation voluntary departure, will they qualify? Completed 4-year degree, married to USC and USC kids. Interestingly enough, in this version of the bill, this individual would qualify. You have to have maintained continuous residence, but there also does include an exception if you have been ordered removed or given voluntary departure. So it's very likely that under this, if it continues the way it is, as is, and passes, that this person would be included, right? The thing is, if you didn't have the removal or voluntary departure, or this person didn't, but they left the country, didn't have continuous presence, that seems to be a problem in this bill, which is a little bit different from DACA. You know, we've been able to make some arguments. This one seems more strict, like you have to have been here the whole time and not left. So I think in this fact pattern, you would qualify, right? And my pleasure, thanks for tuning in. We have same question, yeah, we got that one. Keep coming in here. Josefina, si yo apliqué por la visa U y tengo DACA, ¿en qué corriga estoy? So, eso no tiene nada que ver con la visa U, pero por DACA sí. So, esas personas que tienen DACA lo van a hacer las personas que pueden arreglar a residencia por este camino, no por la visa U. Pero todos sabemos que cosas muy buenas ahorita con la visa U. Right? I'm going to take one more question in English and then I'm going to switch over to Espanol. But keep dropping your questions down in English. I just haven't given the overview yet in Spanish, which I want to get to right away. So, if a person came through Mexico in 2006, was under 18 and detained and went to all courts, has been continuously living here, on the last court they gave their passport back and the person didn't go back. This is one of those interesting situations here. I hope you have your cafecito, because it's cafecito with the abogado today. It's one of those interesting situations here where, yes, it appears that this individual would still qualify, because they're saying if you haven't left, you've continuously resided, you should therefore then be eligible for this program. Right? Entonces, vamos a, hola, ¿cómo estás? Thanks for tuning in. So ya vamos a cambiar a español, so we're going to switch now over to Spanish. Keep dropping your questions down below in English though, and I'll answer them whatever language you put them in. So, comunidad, noticias del Congreso, de qué está pasando con la reforma. Lo que estamos hablando hoy es que sí pasó por la Cámara de Representantes una propuesta de una reforma. Y los demócratas están diciendo que no pueden dormir de ansiedad si eso va a pasar o no. El propuesto del video hoy explicar quién califica en esta nueva reforma que lo están intentando a pasar y los chances que tiene para pasar. Quiero estar seguro o claro aquí, perdón, no hay nada que podemos aplicar hoy. No hay una aplicación, no hay fecha de aplicar, es una propuesta. Esta propuesta ya pasó una solo chiquito comité de la Cámara de Representantes. No ha pasado toda la Cámara de Representantes, no ha pasado el Senado, y actualmente estamos esperando una decisión de una persona en el Senado que se llama el parliamentarian. Los demócratas están intentando pasar eso con una ley que se llama reconciliación. Okay, es muy difícil de entender, pero básicamente es así. Para pasar una ley en el Senado necesita 60 votos. No hay 60 demócratas, hay 50. Una ley normal. Pero hay una excepción. Si la ley está relacionada al dinero que tenemos que usar para vivir en Estados Unidos, lo que dicen el budget, ¿verdad? Que pueda gastar, que no pueda gastar. Si está relacionado a eso, nada más necesita los 50 votos. So, en la propuesta grande de 3.5 trillón de dólares, lo están intentando incluir aquí, que estoy hablando hoy. Pero una persona en el Senado, que se llama el parliamentarian, tiene el poder de decir si sí puedo incluir eso en esta propuesta o no. Es una ley normal que necesita los 60 votos. Estamos esperando la decisión de esa persona esta semana o la semana que viene. So, si ellos dicen que sí, entonces eso probablemente va a ser la ley. Si ellos dicen que no, entonces no hay posibilidad por esa propuesta. Los demócratas ya están diciendo que van a intentar hacer otro tipo de reforma. Para mí significa, a lo mejor ellos pensaban que el viernes pasado cuando tuve la junta no fue muy bien y están esperando decisión negativa. Pero este lunes esa persona pidió más información a los demócratas de si eso también lo pueden incluir en esta ley o no. So, estamos en una situación de mucha esperanza, pero muchos nervios también, esperando la decisión de esa persona. So, en vez de esperar nada más, vamos a hacer esta revisión de quién califica y quién no califica, ¿verdad? Primero aquí lo están diciendo las personas, si pueden pasar, lo va a tener que pagar como una, no dice multa, dice supplemental fee de $1,500 más lo que van a poner por la aplicación. So, el $1,500 es separado, va a ser $1,500 más lo que ellos cobren por la aplicación. Va a tener que pasar exámenes de médico, también va a tener que hacer sus huellas para una investigación penal. Y todas esas personas que pueden beneficiar, que entraron menos de 18 años, menos de 19, o 18 años o menos, entró antes del 1 de enero de 2021 y no ha salido, es el primer requisito por la categoría de los jóvenes de los Dreamers. No dice, no importa si tiene 50 años ya, si entró cuando tenía menos 18, no ha salido, y eso fue antes de este año. Y usted de una de esas tres cosas, estaba en el ejército, sobre estudios, está 2 años en la universidad, una escuela técnica, o si está trabajando 3 años, o está en un programa de las escuelas de universidad o de una escuela técnica. La mayoría de la gente que no están en la universidad, en esta categoría aquí, los 3 años de trabajo es donde van a entrar. ¿Okay? So, eso es la categoría de los jóvenes. Hay una categoría que yo pienso que es más grande que eso. Es la categoría de las personas que estaban trabajando esencialmente durante la pandemia. So, si estaba trabajando aquí, y quiero decir gracias a mi esposa, porque yo dejé mis notas en la casa hoy, ella vio y tomó foto y me mandó y yo pude imprimir. Muchísimas gracias por hacer eso, por eso ya tengo mis notas conmigo. So, los trabajadores esenciales son personas que trabajaron entre enero del año pasado y agosto del año pasado en ciertos trabajos. La lista de ciertos trabajos es grandísima. Aquí está 23 páginas de la definición de quién califica aquí como trabajador esencial. Trabajaron en comida, trabajaron en transportación, trabajaron en construcción, hay muchos trabajos. Básicamente puede pensarlo, mira, si yo estaba trabajando durante la pandemia, probablemente aquí hay una categoría para mí. No podemos decir con exactitud, ¿verdad? Tenemos que ver cada trabajo específicamente y ser un argumento cómo está relacionado a una de esas categorías, pero esa categoría yo sí estoy pensando que es por la mayoría de nuestra comunidad. Va a ser mucho más personas que arreglen por eso que arreglen por los jóvenes. So, algo muy, muy bueno. Excelentísima. ¿Okay? Eso es categoría número 2. Categoría número 3 son las personas que tienen TPS y estaban aquí por mínimo 3 años. Las personas que tienen DED, los países de TPS son antes del 1 de enero de 2017 y las personas que tienen DED también califican. Son las 4 categorías. Jóvenes, trabajadores esenciales, TPS, DED. Esas 4 personas, pero también, como siempre, comunidad, hay las leyes de inadmisibilidad, ¿verdad? Right here, grounds of ineligibility. So, lo están diciendo aquí que el mismo ley que siempre usamos, 202A, el 2 que es cargos penales, el 3 que es seguridad, 6E, 6G, 8, 10, 10, A, C y D, también no pueden entrar si no tienen un perdón. Pero es diferente, porque no incluye todas las leyes de inadmisibilidad, nada más esos específicos. So, si tienen cualquier caso penal, sí quieren analizarlo bien antes de aplicar, que no es una razón para ser negado. Cualquier problema que tiene en su pasado también quiere revisarlo. Pero el bueno es que cuando estamos hablando específicamente de esas leyes, podemos ver que no incluye todo, ¿verdad? Aquí está A2 y 3. 2 es penal, 3 es terrorismo de seguridad. Y cuando llegamos a 6, normalmente mucha de nuestra comunidad tiene problemas con misrepresentación, con falsa declaración de ser ciudadanos, pero aquí no específicamente dice 6B o 6C. Puede cambiar, pero la versión que estamos hablando hoy dice 6E, smugglers, que ayudó a alguien a entrar al país sin permiso, y 6G, aquí, que es personas que abusaron los visas, ¿verdad? Y también incluye 8 aquí, una persona que no es elegible por la ciudadanía. Y aquí estamos viendo 9 personas que fueron echados antes. Mucha gente ahorita tiene esa pregunta. El número 9 dice, una persona ordenada o deportado no puede arreglar, ¿verdad? Aquí, en la lista, donde dice 9 aquí, vamos a regresar con la ley, no está 9, ¿verdad? No está 9. So, eso es algo bueno. So, estoy diciendo que si un abogado ha dicho a usted, pues usted no califica por esa razón o esa razón, pues sí tenemos que analizar bien para estar seguro que también no incluye en esa propuesta, pero sí es más libertad de aplicar que tradicional. Entonces sí es algo bueno que nosotros gustamos ver, ¿verdad? Muy, muy buenas noticias. Pero es la propuesta nada más. Es la pura propuesta. Vamos a ir al video, a las preguntas. Muchísimas gracias por las preguntas. Cualquier cosa, pongan aquí. Josefina pregunta, ¿cuánto va a ser la aplicación? Son 1,500 como la multa y más lo que ellos cobran por la aplicación. Va a ser miles de dólares. Miles de dólares, pero eso ya es muy temprano de estar hablando de eso. Siempre bueno de juntar dinero en cualquier cosa. What do you think it will become a law if it gets passed? So if it gets passed, it will come into effect 180 days after it passes, or May 1, 2022, whichever comes first. 180 days after it's passing, or May 1, 2022 was when it will come into effect. All right. My pleasure. Thanks for tuning in. And yes, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Una esposa increíble. La doctora. Earn income proof for application. Not really, right? The public charge was not included in the list of grounds of inadmissibility. So it seems like they're not really going to be looking into that. So that's pretty awesome. Estoy trabajando desde 2012, pero me salí de la escuela, eso me afecta. No. So hay tres maneras si entre menos de 18. Uno es estudios, el ejército, trabajo. So piénsalo, si estás en el trabajo, no necesitas educación. Si tienes la educación, no necesitas trabajo. Si estás en el ejército, no necesitas uno de los otros tres. Cualquiera de los tres, ¿ok? Si alguien califica, pero su pareja no, por ser ama de casa con niños pequeños, tiene chance ella. Regresamos a las leyes tradicionales, ¿verdad? Y yo pienso que ama de casa es trabajo esencial. Debe ser, ¿verdad? Pero probablemente no está en la lista. Entonces tenemos que pensar, ok, si una pareja puede arreglar por medio de este camino y es residente permanente, en ese momento puede empezar el proceso de arreglar su pareja, pero regresa con los mismos leyes de inadmisibilidad, no tan géneros como están, o generous, no están iguales que como los inadmisibilidades que tenemos en esta propuesta. Entonces, si queremos ver si entró con visa, no entró con visa, si hay un perdón que podemos pedir. De todos modos, no hay una prohibición en esta ley que dice cuando arreglas no puede arreglar familia. Probablemente, ojalá sí podemos, cuando la persona primero arregla, puede empezar el proceso por su pareja. Okay? And see, we have lots of agreement on this topic. Una esposa maravillosa. La doctora Maldonado, follow her on the face, on the gram, on the tick. She's everywhere. She's famous. Okay. Si se trabaja como asistente de administración por un abogado calificada para una de esas categorías. Liz, muy buena pregunta. Los abogados sí son trabajadores esenciales y déjeme decirlo como usted lo puede verificar eso. Entonces, si estamos viendo en esta página, let me get this back up again. Lo que yo quiero que la gente sabe es que puede preguntar aquí, buscar al find, pone lawyer, ¿verdad? Aquí lo puedo decir, trabajadores ayudando, soportando el sistema judicial, incluyendo jueces, abogados y otros dando asistencia legal, ¿verdad? So I think this one, we would be able to fit that in there as well. And do a search on that, any search topic you want, you can put that word in there, it'll go to that page, and then you can see whether or not you got an argument there that it qualifies. So yo creo que sí. So muy buenas noticias. Will they be required to get the job in order to qualify? No, like if you have education, otherwise you don't need to be working if you meet the education criteria or if you're in the military, right? Las personas que tienen el castigo permanente podrían aplicar por este programa. El castigo permanente de entrar al país, quedar más de un año, salir del país, regresar sin permiso, técnicamente no prohíbe a una persona de aplicar aquí, pero la ley sí dice que tiene que estar continuamente aquí en el país. Eso puede ser un problema en ese aspecto. Esa ley horrible que tenemos que cambiar, que ya es tiempo, ya basta con esta ley, tiene que cambiar, no está específicamente mencionado como una razón para negar, pero de todos modos están diciendo que tiene que estar continuamente aquí en el país y no hay una definición bueno como hemos visto en otras versiones de la reforma. Okay. Van a pedir pruebas de que no han hecho sus taxes. En esta propuesta no hay. En esta propuesta no dice nada de prueba de los impuestos, pero se puede cambiar. Se puede cambiar Ahorita es el que pasó la Cámara de Representantes, pero eso puede ser un requisito que ellos ponen después. What about those who submitted a DACA initial application and they are on hold? So if you submitted an initial DACA and you're on hold, you would certainly qualify under this program. I don't think they're just going to transfer and say we're going to move those applications over to this new program. I think they're going to make us do it all over again, send off the packet again. But definitely if you qualified for DACA before, you would qualify if this becomes law. All right. My pleasure. Thanks for tuning in. And again, the 10-year bar, that's the same thing we just talked about right now. La doctora dice, gracias a todos por las palabras, excelente. Ahí está la doctora, nos está viendo aquí en el YouTube, con todos los amigos de YouTube. Otra vez, si está viendo YouTube, please hit subscribe para que podamos seguir creciendo ahí. Ah, the jab, you meant the vaccine. I got it. I thought you said the job. Yes. So the choice is Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, or Moderna. Because USCIS has come out and said anyone that wants to become a permanent resident after October 1 of this year would have to also get the COVID-19 vaccine. So as it's written right now, at the very top it said the medical examination. I think that will carry over from what it is right now, and that will also probably be included. All right? Doesn't specifically say in the bill, but that's my guess. Yo tengo DACA, pero solo soy ama de casa. So, Yemin, usted está diciendo, yo tengo DACA y soy un increíble trabajo más importante del mundo, ama de casa. Tengo que empezar un degree o trabajar si llegara a pasar este bill, ¿cuánto tiempo nos dan para poder aplicar? So, no hay una límite de tiempo. So, una persona como usted que tiene DACA, yo recomiendo, en vez de empezar a trabajar, puede ir por los estudios y ir por este camino. So, regresamos aquí, vamos a ir a los estudios, los requisitos de estudios. Usted tiene que ya graduó de la prepa o ya estaba en un programa de GED, pero ¿qué más maneras podemos hacerlo para que usted lo pueda beneficiar de eso? Si pasa otra vez, regresamos a ese tema, si pasa. So, ahí tenemos el trabajo, el número 3 aquí. Durante este tiempo de 3 años antes, trabajando, o número 4, está enrolled, metido, está en un programa ahorita de una de esas escuelas, escuela técnico, escuela de universidad colegial, community college, y trabajando o algo así. So, sí es algo que desafortunadamente no incluye, como las veces del pasado, algo específico para amas de casa. Ojalá es un cambio que ellos lo hagan para ponerlo ahí adentro. Pero ahorita sí es como usted entra al ejército, es opción, pero no. O tienen los 2 años de una escuela secundaria, una escuela técnico. So, probablemente es mejor entrar. Si pasa, vamos a ver, todavía muy temprano. No estoy diciendo, ya ir a ingresar a una escuela ahorita. Todavía mínimo esperamos una semana a ver qué dice el Senate Parliamentarian. Pero las otras propuestas que hemos visto, hemos revisado aquí en este canal, si incluye, si es ama de casa, aquí no. Pero a lo mejor el Senado incluye eso en su propuesta. Do you think the Senate version will be different for Dreamers' requirements? I don't think the Senate version will be substantially different from what we just read right now, which is the House version, under the provisions of who qualifies for Dreamers, right? However, if the Senate parliamentarian comes back and says, negative, not going to go with the version you're thinking about right now, we could see it completely change to where it doesn't even include Dreamers anymore, right? It could be something people are debating. It could be an extension of 245I. So if you have a petition before April 30th, 2001, you can adjust here in the country. they might extend that to 2020, 2015. If you have a visa you're waiting for, the visa backlogs. There's another portion of the bill we didn't talk about today. The visa backlogs, that might be something else different that they do. Registry, which is there's a strange immigration law that if you were here before the 70s, you can essentially apply to become a permanent resident. Maybe they extend that date, like for people that have been here a really long time. We don't know yet, right? It's too preliminary, but right now we're waiting for the Senate parliamentarian to issue a decision. Y alguien que tiene DACA y no se graduó de la high school, pero ha trabajado por 10 años califica. Sí, Mayra, claro que sí. Eso es una de las 3 categorías de trabajo por los 3 años. Esa persona sí califica. No es necesario ir al colegio o universidad si ya tiene los 3 años trabajando. So as it's written, someone that was already deported and came back wouldn't qualify. Not necessarily, right? Not necessarily. It depends how they're going to define continuously residing, continuously lived. If we use the traditional definitions of continuously in immigration law, it depends how long the person was gone. So definitely be a very case-by-case analysis of who would qualify and who wouldn't qualify, right? If it failed through the Senate parliamentarian, is there any way to overrule her? No. She is the most powerful person for this next week in the United States of America related to immigration reform. It's not even a formal process. There's no statute on it. There's no regulation on it giving her this power. It's kind of like, this is how we play the game. We're going to respect the game. Unwritten rules of baseball. Right? You hit a home run, you don't show off and showboat around the bases. If you do, you're going to get plugged in the back, next batter, or next time you're up. Same thing here, Senate parliamentarian, this is the way that we run the show. Senate parliamentarian says no, then it doesn't happen, right? And there's no appeal, nowhere to go after that. Claro que sí, mi placer. Will a child with DACA and still in high school qualify? Yes. So they came in before, well, yes with the exception, right? They came in before January 1, 2021. They entered before they were 18. So they might actually have to go on and do 2 years of college or work for 3 years, how this one's written right now. So in that sense, it's more limited than what we've seen in the past and a little more frustrated as your examples are pointing out. In this one, the requirement of higher education or a technical school or 3 years of work or military, excluding other folks as well, that is a bit frustrating to see. Of course, my pleasure, and if it happens, when it happens, give us a call so we can look at your case in detail and figure out if you can go forward or not. Ladies and gentlemen, 602-910-4040, give us a call, give us a text, like, subscribe, share, tell your mama, tell your tia, tell your abuelo, tell your neighbor, we're getting ready for immigration reform. Still got to get through the Senate parliamentarian, but it's game time. Let's hope that happens. If not, we got to get ready to push back on the Democrats to come back with a different version that opens up back up for many more people. I thank everybody for tuning in. Stay tuned. Make sure you're subscribing, you're liking. We got new people that have started in the office. We're going to introduce them to you as our criminal immigration and our personal injury teams continue to grow. We'll be doing some videos the next few weeks about that. All right. And any tips to be prepared just in case? I mean, if you're in one of the categories, it doesn't hurt you to prove your presence before January 1 of this year, to have documents on hand that show you were in the country before. If you're going for the essential worker, it doesn't hurt you to, get your pay stubs and put them in a file or put them in a thumb drive, proving that you were working in essential work. Print out of your job description or the web page of the company, along with your pay stub, something like that. Of course, we want to check anything and everything on those before we submit them to immigration. But getting this stuff together, proof you've been employed for the last 3 years, if you're going to do it through the fact you came in when you were under 18, that you arrived before you were 18. All these requirements doesn't hurt you to get together. Is it needed? Is it necessary? No. Right? It's going to be 18 months or 180 days, 6 months after, or May 1, 2022 at the earliest that we could apply for anything So you'll have plenty of time to get in gear if it actually becomes a reality. All right. Escuche que tienen que tener una respuesta para el 27 de este mes, es verdad. No hay un límite de tiempo que ella tiene que dar la respuesta. Puede ser hoy, puede ser mañana. Pero como están moviendo rápido, sí creo que va a ser antes del 27. So yo creo que va a ser probablemente al fin de esta semana. Ya estamos en jueves, o probablemente viernes o lunes de la semana que viene. Muy, muy pronto, yo pienso. Yo estoy aquí desde 12, nunca he salido a México, solo quiero tener un permiso para poder ver a mi padre. So, Josefina, eso es algo diferente también. DACA es bueno, permiso de trabajo, no ser deportado. Puede pedir advance parole, si tiene DACA ahorita, para permiso para salir a ver a su papá si no ha visto por mucho tiempo. Recuerda, advance parole por DACA es trabajo, educación o razones humanitarias. Son las tres categorías. Razón humanitaria, si no ha visto por mucho tiempo, si usted está aquí desde 12 años, no ha visto a su papá por ese tiempo, a lo mejor tenemos un argumento. No es garantizado ganar, pero también tenemos que buscar otra manera por trabajo o por educación que usted puede ir también a advance parole. Si no, esa propuesta sí es mejor porque es camino a residencia. Es residencia, no es permiso de trabajo. Y cuando es residente permanente, pueden entrar y salir de México sin problemas. All right? Been working since I got my DACA 6 years ago, but stopped this year. Will I qualify? Great question, because specifically, let's go back and look at the text here about the work one here. During the 3-year period immediately preceding the date on which we submit the application, a consistent record of earned income in the United States. Ooh, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. So it's going to go minus 3 years from the date we apply. So let's put us in 2023, 2022. So we're going to look at from 2019 to 2022. Do we have the argument that you have a consistent record of earned income? What does consistent record mean? Does 2 months off? Does 3 months off? There's a pandemic. A lot of people had difficult time finding work, or still having difficult time finding work. We can make the argument that, hey, there's a consistent enough record in the last 3 years, but it is not clearly defined what that means. Otherwise, you'd have to go back and get yourself enrolled in a program described in Clause 2 up here, and that program in Clause 2 is a higher education institution. So to me, that means community college, university, college, or a post-secondary credential from a career technical education. So if there's some kind of technical skill or career skill that you want, a post-secondary degree from there as well. So great question, and we're right on the edge. And if you already have DACA, does it hurt us to apply? No, as long as you can keep renewing your DACA and that stays eligible, which as it is right now, even with the hand decision, we can continue to apply for DACA and reapply. We might as well submit the application if we're eligible to do it otherwise, right? If it happens, I mean, and make the argument that you've been continuously employed for the last 3 years, right? Entré a los 16 años en el 2004, salí en 2006, regresas, calificará para los Dreamers. So eso también tenemos que regresar aquí y a ver qué dice específicamente sobre los Dreamers, lo que dice aquí arriba. En el primer parte, he estado continuamente físico presente en Estados Unidos desde el 1 de enero de 2021. Sí, tenía 18 años de edad o menos cuando entró el país y ha continuamente vivido en Estados Unidos después de ese tiempo. So, la definición tradicional de continuously resided, que es eso aquí, no me gusta 2 años. 2 años es difícil de decir con la definición que tenemos ahorita en las leyes de migración. Eso puede cambiar, ¿verdad? Esa es una propuesta Si pasa la ley, la agencia puede poner más cómo van a definir las palabras que tienen ahí. Eso es algo que seguimos viendo. Cómo ellos van a decir continuously resided. Si tiene DACA ahorita, otra vez el mismo que acaba de contestar. Si tiene DACA, no hay nada negativo de intentar por la aplicación si existe, porque si lo niega todavía tiene DACA. Pero tenemos que ver cómo ellos van a estar poniendo la definición de continuously resided. Okay. So, sigue tomando su café, comunidad. Yo sigue tomando sus preguntas. Me gusta mi café puro negro. Nada de azúcar, nada de eso. Derecho. Y feliz Día de Independencia. Si usted está celebrando de México o de su país, feliz día a todos. Ojalá no hizo la pachanga muy noche. Has this bill passed? Great question. Like sometimes I just get rambling off like it's reality. It is not passed anything other than the House Judiciary Committee. So it passed the House Judiciary Committee. It has not passed the entire House. It has not passed the Senate. We're waiting for the Senate parliamentarian to say whether or not it can be considered in the reconciliation bill. But this is the first version that we've seen come out of either the House or the Senate. All right? Okay. No tengo DACA, pero que no alcancé porque no tenía 15 años cuando entré. Por eso es mejor. Por eso es mejor porque hay personas que tenían 15 años, porque tenía más de 15 años cuando usted entró, 17, 18. Esta propuesta sí incluye a esas personas. So, esta propuesta sí es buena por ese aspecto. Hay una persona muy probable, si tiene 17 años, que califican bajo eso. ¿Verdad? Claro que sí, mi placer. Hola, ¿cómo estás? Gusto verte, gracias porque nos está viendo. Entonces ya nomás falta un paso y ya sé si sabe si se hace la ley. Básicamente, ¿verdad? Si el persona que está encargado, el Senate Parliamentarian, dice que sí, como está escrito, eso es suficiente para reconciliación. Todos están pensando que va a pasar. Es política. Tenemos que regresar a ese tema otra vez. Si todos los demócratas tienen que estar de acuerdo, ¿verdad? Y ojalá han dicho los demócratas que todo su partido está de acuerdo con esta reforma. Pero son puras palabras. Nunca sabe qué va a pasar, pero ahorita lo que pueden matar esa propuesta es una sola persona en el Senado que va a tomar esa decisión. ¿Ok? Ahí estamos, comunidad. Muchísimas gracias porque nos está viendo. Me encanta todas las preguntas que lo están haciendo. Sigue con sus preguntas. Familiares de trabajadores esenciales califican como derivatives, hijos, esposas. No. So, esta propuesta no incluye la palabra que digamos mucha en migración, derivatives. Eso es más como DACA. So, DACA es puro la persona que pueden aplicar. En esa propuesta parece que es puro la persona que es elegible puede aplicar. Después puede pedir sus familias si ellos son elegibles independientemente, pero no hay nada ahí que dice sus familias, sus esposas, sus niños menos de 21 años. Ok, si perdió una pregunta, si perdió su pregunta, muy disculpas. Estoy intentando a ver si perdí una pregunta. Muchísimas gracias, como siempre, comunidad. Lo agradezco su apoyo. Por favor, compartir el video. Pone like, pone subscribe para que pueda saber más. Regresamos al tema. Es una pura propuesta ahorita. 4 categorías de personas que califican. Los jóvenes que entraron menos de 18 años y han estado trabajando o graduaron o tienen 2 años de escuela secundaria o están en ejército. Los que entraron antes del 1 de este año y están trabajando en trabajos esenciales. los de TPS designado antes de o en la fecha 1 de enero 2017, los de DD, los que no están en inadmisibilidad bajo los cargos penales de seguridad, fraude de abuso de visas de estudiantes, no tiene una felonía, no recuerdo si toqué ese tema, pero no puede tener ni una felonía y no puede tener 3 delitos menores que sirvió 90 días en la cárcel. ¿Okay? Son cosas mejores que DACA, cosas peores que DACA, ahí es donde estamos ahorita. ¿Okay? Muchísimas gracias, lo agradezco mucho. Ay, gracias. Usted es el único abogado que me ha sabido contestar todas mis preguntas. Por eso estamos aquí. Doy gracias siempre, cada día de ser abogado. Doy gracias cada día por mis experiencias que he tenido a dar respuestas a la comunidad. Por eso fui a la escuela de leyes para que podía ayudar a la comunidad y por eso estamos aquí para servir. Una pregunta más antes que regresamos. Ya tenemos 1 hora aquí. Yo entré a este país en 2006, tenía 9 años, califico, nunca he salido de Estados Unidos, tengo buen récord, no tengo felonías, no tengo DACA porque me salí de la escuela. Sí, si usted tiene 3 años, los últimos 3 años trabajando, no tiene otras razones para ser inadmisible, yo pienso personas exactamente como usted que no podía beneficiar por DACA, pero sí puede beneficiar por esa propuesta. Ahí esperamos, comunidad, que buscamos una cosa positiva del Senate Parliamentarian para que nos pueda echar el mano para seguir con eso. Someone who's still in college qualify, what if someone only has a high school diploma? That's what we call a compound question. Shakira, thanks for your question. Compound question means 2 questions within one phrase. So number 1, will someone who's still in college qualify? Yes, if they've had 2 years. 2 years of college seems to be the requirement here. If they only have a high school diploma and they haven't hit the 2 years yet, they would have to wait for the 2 years that they actually have to enroll in school for 2 years, higher education or technical school, or be working for the last 3 years, continuously working for the last 3 years. So that's the way someone could get it done. Like and subscribe, my friends on the tube. Share and comment, my friends on the face. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Stay tuned. When the Senate Parliamentarian has their decision, we're coming back on here to give it to you. Hopefully to party and to celebrate, not to lament. Let's look forward to positive things. Everybody have a great rest of your day and a great weekend. Thanks for tuning in.